FanReach, and the National Football League Alumni Association have agreed to work together on a mobile platform that brings new opportunities to retired NFL players. In this episode of the FanReach podcast, Kenyon, Rasheed, Brian Jones, and I discuss how this kind of technology opens up opportunities for former football players. They've got a lot left to give and receive from their communities. You guys, of course, are former NFL players and part of the Alumni Association. So tell me about this project and why you think that mobile apps for that particular group of people is such an interesting and compelling project for that particular organization.
I think, you look at the Alumni Association and all the good they do, and they're set up as a 501c3, and they have these various chapters around the nation, and they do a lot of great things within their respective communities, from holding golf course and other events that benefit charities in those respective locales. And with all these different partnerships that they have entered into, the sponsorship activation, all those things, there was a failing and a lacking from that standpoint as well. So what Kenyon and I engaged them in a conversation along with FanReach about reimagining their mobile platform. And also adding a few bells and whistles here and there that could not only engage the former players, but also activate those aforementioned sponsorships and bring some type of monetization to the platform.
I'm gonna take a step back and kind of explain the retired community as a whole, because we've been fragmented and segmented into multiple groups, multiple platforms. They are league-based alumni platforms that are well-funded, well thought out, but still lack certain community-based acquisition reach outs, connections that really the alumni are looking for. And especially on the monetization side, we have a community of almost 30,000 living retired NFL players out there. I think that shocks a lot of people on how many of us are actually, walking amongst their communities that they probably have no idea. And so one of our
30,000,
goals,
holy cow.
It's it's a wide range of ages, a wide range of technical capabilities, which brings us back to how did we sift through and cipher through all of these platforms to, number one, find utilities for us. What are our benefits? How are they being delivered to us? And how do we find out and can access them? And so that information lives on the Legends community, which is a league-based platform, the National Football Players Association alumni platform, which is league-based, the Trust, which is league-based, and now you have the NFL Alumni Association on the other side of this. And then you even have groups like the NFL Foundation and Gridiron Greats and
pro players
and pro players. And could I keep going, BJ, or should I just stop there?
There's an array of platforms out there.
That seems like a lot of places to go to try to get information.
So if you're confused, what do you think we are? So that's 99%
it's like
of
trying
why
to get a COVID appointment right now, right?
It's tough, right? And so, one of the background stories of leading up to the association and our talks with the NFL alumni was we spent a couple years working with the Pro Football Hall of Fame and their expansion project around their village. And one of the challenges that they had was they were only really selling 332 assets, which are, I think at the time was the number of players in the Hall of Fame, right? That's why people go. That's the fan bases that are based around those guys. And so it's really difficult to build a sustainable 12-month Disney type village experience in Canton, Ohio, around 332 assets. And so we were in discussions with them about establishing what we call digital legacy archives for every player. So every player would have a place at the Hall of Fame. They may not have a bus like me and BJ, but things like our contracts and our memorabilia, things that were important to us throughout our career, could be archived in a digital archive that could be accessed at the Hall of Fame or digitally through all of these different platforms for our fan base, family, and so forth. And so we felt like we had a head start in talking with the alumni. And 2 years ago, old teammate of mine, Bart Oates, took control of the alumni. He became their director. And in the 2 years that he's been there, he has accelerated that platform tremendously. And me and BJ joke with him that, after how many 20 something years of let's just say lack of leadership, we finally have someone who kind of understands the retired mantra, which is, how do we help each other? How do we bring former players with businesses and certain pieces into the family and give them opportunities to generate business off of their brethren, which is our community, right? But the initial and the biggest challenge that the alumni has that we're tackling is acquisition. How do we get players like Brian Jones and myself to use the app? Now, the great thing that we have is we're members. So the people that we're actually trying to talk about is us. Who we're trying to attract is us. And so we start with, is this going to move the needle for us? Will this make us download the app? Will this make us, participate in a specific game? And so we feel like working hand to hand with FanReach, we can almost, architect the app in a way that uses our alumni membership as kind of a value proposition. We understand what we are looking for. And number one is monetization. BJ said it over and over again. If you're a retired player and the alumni reaches out, first question I got is, how you saving me money and how you make me money, which is our mantra when we're talking to anyone. Right. So at the end of the day, we want to put together not only the platform through FanReach, but companies like VPO and Najee Good, who we're working with, who works hand in hand with the alumni. In fact, he's one of the chapter directors down in Florida. And I'm talking about great young guy, just got out of the league, great ideas. And so our job is to try to marry some of these things with our FanReach platform and really start testing out these use cases and campaigns and so forth, bring a lot of more connectivity to the alumni community. And more than that, bring some dollars to the table. We have to start generating income.
And if you can have all the bells and whistles, you can have all these myriad resources, but if no one's downloading your app, what good is that? It's zero good. So what we've impressed upon them is a new way forward, a new way, along with BPO and Najee Good, as Kenyon mentioned, of reimagining, redeveloping this platform. And I think we've got a first good step in play and about to embark on a great journey along with FanReach and the NFL Alumni Association. And lastly, I'll say this, because Kenyon is exactly right. We, from our perspective as former players, we have a business intelligence as far as how this thing should look. What's going to attract us and other players like us to all these resources and to your app. So coming from that standpoint, much like we do out in a broader sense with other clients, you got to seek this from that user's perspective, from that fan's perspective. What is it that they want? What are the benefits they can glean from a relationship with this team or that team? And it's the same here. So it's been, without a doubt, a joy to work with Bart. He's so forward thinking and he's so open to any and all ideas. And I love the calls where his sister and he's like, can y'all work together? Yes, we can work. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Yeah. Can y'all work together to make this happen? Yes, Bart, we can work together to make this happen. So the NFL Alumni Association is in great hands, wonderful leadership at this time, and only bigger and better things are in store down the road.
So in my mind, the FanReach app, the way I picture it is it's, it's really for game day, obviously, to tell people a bunch of stuff about what's going on during the game. But, it's really branching out, right? It's really now becoming a 365 thing to talk to your fans all the time, every day, because there's stuff happening all the time, every day, especially with COVID on top of just, things are always changing. So tell me some specific examples of why it is that the NFL Alumni Association is going to get value from an app that's kind of for a sports team or for a venue. What are some of the things that you're hoping that FanReach is going to improve about communication to NFL alumni?
Well, when you look at the FanReach mobile suite and all the things they deliver to their NFL clients, content card, marketing cards, team cards, uh, when you juxtapose that with the NFL Alumni Association, essentially we're still a team. This is our locker room. This is where we want guys to amass and take part in all the different resources that are available via the NFL Alumni Association partnerships. And so, what FanReach can come in with its mobile suite, and deliver content cards. We can post different things on that site. Players can do that, and you also you can generate content. You also can market your sponsors. We can come in and show how tying their brand to the players that are accessible throughout the NFL Alumni Association is a win-win for all parties involved. So some of the same capabilities that teams utilize can be beneficial to the league or the NFL Alumni Association as well, in a similar vein, maybe not as robust, because these are teams that are playing on Sundays while we're a retired team over here, but yet there's still an opportunity for brands to expand their footprint via our network. So from that sense, it's viable for FanReach and everything that they're able to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. Well, in any mobile app, and again, I'm a correct you, Christy. Apps used to be for game day only. Right. Now they are sustainable communication platforms, and so teams are moving beyond that 8 games a year from the NFL and saying, how can we engage you 365, 24/7? It's the reason why we see sports district and entertainment districts popping up around venues. No longer do you just want to engage them during the game. And so at the end of the day, what do you go to the game to see? You come to the game to see athletes, to see us play on the field, to get to understand who they are, what they're thinking, what the game plan is. When you retire from the NFL, that fan base doesn't necessarily go away. They just no longer can get to you on those 8 games to find out what you're thinking, what are you doing, how do you feel about this current group of NFL players or games or recruiting or NIL. We have a lot of expertise within our community to provide back to our fans. We just have never had a platform as a whole to actually do that on. You've always had to come to the NFL or go to a team to reach us. Thanks to technology's advancement, thanks to social media tools, thanks to apps and companies like FanReach, we can bring you players like teams. So we are looking at Brian Jones as a team. We are looking at Kenyon Rasheed as a team. So everything that involves from my schedule, my content, memorabilia, maybe I want to sell t-shirts like yoga is my own gym in a different color. It'd have to be in Sooner Red though, BJ, not that one. Those opportunities, we want to provide the platform for them to do it. But what people and what we are really struggling to communicate is the way that you architect that within the app to lead to a conversion is something that has been missing in our environment. Right? We can throw a lot of stuff into an app. We can do 125 integrations, which people like to talk about in this industry is, oh, we have 200 integrations. Well, that's great. What does those integrations lead to? Mm-hmm. What are they supposed to do? Because we are breaking this into 3 buckets. We break it into acquisition. Can we get you to download the app? We're breaking it into retention. Can we keep you reusing the app for various daily activities that you have? Checking your fantasy team, finding out the big news around draft and coaches, things that you want to actually have access to. And then thirdly, can we lead you to a conversion, which is what every property, alumni, teams, they all want the same thing. Can we convert? Without acquisition, without retention, you cannot convert. So if I want to sell a jersey or sell my highlight tape or sell this picture in my background, right? Because it's one, we began to start to understand the power of commerce around the application and the platform, which is what we want to help establish for the alumni. But it's also at the same time with our upgrades at FanReach and what we're releasing with our new platform, we want to provide that power back to teams. We want them to be able to run their own campaigns, be able to put their own player cards in there, change the colors as needed, and then start to mount out that conversion strategy with them as a brand champion with them. I think the sponsor activation is key, because especially now digitally, as sponsors are looking, they understand we don't know when people are really coming back to the stadium. And if they do, we want to make sure that our strategy is in place, that the next pandemic happens, we don't necessarily have to say, okay, well, what do we do? How do we reach them now if they're not at our stadium, but we know that they're watching on TV? How do we supplement that? So things like player podcasts and game casts. So you would be able to go on the NFL Alumni app, and it's, and I'm just using college, for example, but let's say it's the Giants versus a Cowboy. And let's say I am one of the alumni that are lucky enough to be on the app during the live screen, right? Me and another Cowboy, former Cowboys, and it could be multiple guys, could be sitting there having a conversation with fans while the game is going on, while we're watching it through the app. That is the power that the alumni group as a vehicle controls. And then that the platform that FanReach is putting in place enables us to do these types of things. When you are able to do that, now your sponsorship goes up. Now your acquisition costs are decreased. And now you have what we call a business platform. I hate calling things mobile apps, because the question is, what is an app and what is it for? Nowadays, it's a mobile platform that is being used to generate e-commerce, generate content. And that's kind of consistent with what we feel like we can establish with the NFLA.
And to Kenyon's point, everyone wants to be relevant throughout the year. It's not just during the season. How do we keep those eyeballs focused on us once the season concludes, once we're done with the Super Bowl, once we're done with the college football playoffs? How do we sustain that relevancy? That's going to be the goal, or is the goal currently for everyone. So we don't want you to utilize our mobile platform just once, during the week of the event, then that event's over and then you never look at it again. No, we want there to still be pertinent information available that resonates with that fan, that retains that fan, and that drives that fan to a conversion, as Mr. Rasheed just stated. So everyone is seeking the same goal. We need to be relevant, and give credit to the NFL, because they started this when they pushed free agency back. Then they pushed the draft back to the end of April, and then then you got a couple weeks off, but you're still really relevant because you're talking about guys getting signed as you head into training camp about a month and a half later. And once training camp hits, it's all NFL all the time. So they really started us down this path of being relevant throughout an entire calendar year. And now from a business standpoint, how do we sustain those eyeballs and keep the focus on our brand? And going back to the players in the NFL Alumni Association, essentially we are a brand. And a lot of guys out there have names that they could leverage for the rest of their lives. But the majority of us, we cannot, but we still have a brand. And we say this about collegiate athletics all the time when we're discussing name, image, and likeness. Not everyone's going to have the same reach. You got people who are going to have, some marketability locally, where they're from, regionally, where they play, and then those guys who are national. The same here for former players of the NFL. And here's a way via the NFL Alumni and their association with FanReach that's building their mobile suite to remain or find some more relevancy and direct people towards that mobile platform to seek out some certain memorabilia, if you will, or just a way to interface with us amongst a myriad of topics. So I think it's not thing. We know that's the way forward, and that's what everyone's striving to accomplish. So NFL alumni, they get it now, and a whole host of people that we're discussing understand that relevancy throughout that 365 is the goal.
And just to add something, because I just, as BJ was talking, was just thinking about our business, BJ, mm-hmm. and our connection and how many athletes that we're activating now and the lengths that we have to go through to just find our former teammates and players and fraternity of, hey, we've got a couple deals for you. I mean, we try not to, and we pride ourselves on staying within our network, right? Player leads us to another player, and we try to activate marketing partnerships internally just through our network. Mm-hmm. What this platform enables us to do is we no longer have to go to third parties to try to find a guy that we played with that we've lost touch with over the last 20 years, right? You may have a golf tournament that you want players to play in. You shouldn't have to hire someone to make phone calls. You should be able to go into your app, put in what parameters you're looking for, and be able to reach out to our 30,000 retired players and say, hey guys, we have an event coming up. Me and BJ were able to do it on a smaller scale in one of the projects we did around our brain study around the NFL Retired Players Associations and members. But it was organic. What we believe the app can do is we can automate a lot of those connections, just like any other community, like a LinkedIn and other platforms that are out there bringing communities together.
It's our CRM.
It's our CRM. Exactly. We just happen to be a very highly visible group. Yeah. That people tend to wonder what the heck is going on. Anything going on current, they want to compare it or want to get the reaction of our retired group. Right. And as sports betting becomes more prevalent, we see it as a great opportunity for retired players to start generating income off the interest around sports betting. And we believe the app can be the conduit for that.
So my background is in broadcast television. So I'm listening to this and there's a lot to unpack there for me because my metaphors are always broadcast television. So bear with me here. But what's interesting in my head is I'm thinking through the options here that you're right. It's a platform, not an app in this particular case. That's what people hold in their hands, or the app, but the platform is kind of the back end of television, right? So if somebody's shooting a game, it doesn't just go to CBS and that's it. There's all kinds of stuff that happens to that content now. Yep. So you're right. It sounds like a platform approach to this new way of reaching players or retired players is really important, because you also have to control who sees what inside of this app, right? Because what you're talking about at some level is players talking to each other and kind of this, and it should be a closed world because many of you are famous and you don't necessarily want to mix the whole world into those conversations, right?
Yep. Great point. But what you just outlined, Christy, is a revenue stream, because those conversations, and I said this the other day when we were in a discussion, that everyone wants to know what's said in that locker room. They want to know what's said on the team bus, the team plane, what's going on behind the scenes.
But that should all be controlled, and that's where I'm getting at here.
We've got a paywall. You want to access that? You want to know what so-and-so who played for this team and so-and-so who played for that team are discussing currently, their thoughts on a particular issue that's prevalent right now in the sports world? Well, there's a premium you have to pay for that. Right. And we see this all the time where guys give that information up freely. Well, I think there's a way you can stick that behind a paywall and then make that a subscription-based product.
But really what I'm getting at, the power of the platform and hopefully the broadcast metaphor, stay with me here and see if this makes sense to me. It makes sense to you. It already makes sense to me. If it's a platform, if it's a powerful platform underneath all these different ways of communicating, players talking to each other, that's probably like a B2B type conversation, right? Then you've got players talking to each other about the sport that's happening in the moment. That's a piece of content, a publicly consumable piece of content. And then you've got sponsors, right? Like that's almost the third thing. Sponsors maybe want to observe or see or participate in lots of these different things. And does the sponsor want to buy the conversation and put it in their app? Does CBS want to invite or the local CVS that's in Dallas want to have those former players in their away feed? Maybe, like, in other words, if your broadcast model is, here we've got all this content and we can choose through various business models where the stuff goes and who gets to listen to it, and most importantly to retired players, probably who's paying for this. Then
so
you've got a bunch of opportunities there.
We got a pool of talent.
I got it.
So just imagine a marketplace on the app that you could come in, and you're DraftKings, and I'm using them as an example. And I need talent and I need content around betting content. Now, if it's searchable within the platform, I can literally search that, make an offer for that content, pay the guy, or put a request out that we're looking for 4 pieces of content for these markets that require this. Could go out to players that have been listed that basically align with those parameters, that can produce the content, put it out. The platform becomes the marketplace. So we see these in companies like Open Doors, which did it for just athletes, where we would take our social media, they would put it up in a dashboard, basically break down the value, keyword terms that you're using and so forth, and invite marketers in to be able to push campaigns automatically. So no dealing with agents, no calling the athlete saying, hey, post this social things. Once they put the tweet in or the social media message, it's approved by the athlete. It's automatically loaded onto their platform and released at the time that the marketer wants. So imagine that with the type of content that we're talking about and the amount of individuals that we have. Now, what's interesting is people now are paying for the content, right? We are looking at athletes and we are seeing betting companies pay money just for talent right now. We are converting that talent, BJ and I, to content, because we believe that's the easiest way to connect athletes and celebrities and betting companies, right? Especially now when it's still at the state law and it's not federally regulated, right? So a lot of that has to be by sport, by particular region or market, and by subject matter. And so if you think about having a platform that can automate all of those parameters and make it easier for both sides to come together, you get a better understanding of the capabilities around this.
And you can carve out different categories within that marketplace. Those who are comfortable talking about gaming, those who are comfortable talking about this subject matter over here. I mean, so there are a whole host of different ideas that can come into play to help build out, if you will, this marketplace. But to your point, Kenyon, it's one-stop shopping. Just come here and find everything you need. And we already have a sense from profiles, who's good at what and who's not. And so it should be pretty seamless. And then the deal flow. You mentioned a couple who've been in this space for a while to a certain extent on the social media front, but the deal flow, that's going to be key as well. And how we sift through all those processes.
Well, BJ, why don't you talk about that deal flow? Why don't you talk about what traditionally happens when a company wants to hire or wants to talk to a retired NFL player about a project and opportunity today?
Well, you got to go to, you mentioned you got to go to this agent. He wants his cut, and then the player gets his cut. So I'm sorry, agents, but with our relationships, we like to cut out the middleman and go straight to the athletes. Say, hey, here's some money for you for about 10, 15 minutes of your time, depending on the campaign that we're engaged in at that particular time. Or, you can take it all, or you can give a portion to someone else. That's up to you. But we're always identifying paid opportunities for players. We do this on the regular basis. Just ended a campaign yesterday, about to embark on another one next week, and another one after that. So we're always, as Kenyon said, seeking athletes for different paid promotions, if you will, that are not arduous. They don't require any heavy lifting. The majority of them can be done from the confines of their home or the car, or wherever, as long as they got a good cell signal. And that's it. So it's pretty seamless and easy, and it's coin that goes directly to them without having to do a robust negotiation with a middle person.
Because we handle all of that for them.
Yeah.
So we try to make sure we look at every opportunity from their perspective, which is the advantage, but we don't represent them.
No.
We represent projects and we represent opportunities that have athlete profiles attached to them. So we attach athlete profiles to whatever we try to do. And then we figure out a category of athletes that we're going to reach out to that fit that profile. Yeah. And it's a simple fact of who wants the money. We're not here to negotiate. We're going to give you top dollar of what we feel the project is worth. But at the same time, we don't have 3 months to go back and forth with an agent who wants an extra 15%, doesn't want his client to do X amount of work, and just the whole process. And I'm not downplaying agents, but one thing that technology has done, it has allowed the marketplace to go direct. And it's in everything. It's what we see with Amazon. It's what we see in the car space and in automotive space. So it's hitting the sports space now, right? And it's still kind of in its infancy stages. We believe the mobile platform is a conduit to help to facilitate these marketplaces because it's what we carry. It's obviously what marketers carry, and it's what consumers are carrying right now. So bringing those three things together, I think, gives FanReach a heck of a possibility because they're working with teams that can be connected to the Alumni Association through these third parties like VPO, right? So we're looking at how do we bring alumni and the Jacksonville Jaguars and VPO that's already a sponsor with the Jaguars and with the alumni together. We're already there. So let's figure out how all of this works and let's make some value for all the parties that are involved.
It almost sounds like it's really not about whether agents have a space or players by themselves have a space or TV has a space. It's more about there's a lot of stuff in the digital world that happens quickly. It's very timely. And if you miss the window, nobody's getting anything.
Nobody's getting anything.
So it's not about really, it sounds like, and at least my small experience with some of this is it's not about bypassing agents or not. It's more about time. And if somebody can make $5,000 for doing something right now while it's relevant tonight at 5:00, you just do it. And let the rest of it kind of worry itself later. Agents are, I think, oftentimes in a much better position to deal with stuff that's long-term and complicated and possibly can affect the way your brand is perceived.
Yep.
That's where you want to bring an agent in, where maybe it sounds like a thing like an NFL alumni app just lets people connect together for all the quick stuff, the real digital heavy, let's go. It's relevant right now. It's trending right now. All those words about the digital space where things come and go so quickly. Maybe that's really the designation.
Yeah, well, there's no selling the profession of agents or being a representative, because we both had them and we're still friends with the guys that represented us during our playing days. So not saying that, but there's another market. There's a different ecosystem that's at play that we've tapped into that allows us to line the pockets of guys once they're done with the game. Those who are playing too, they want to be involved, but definitely the retired players. And so we don't want any hassles, and we understand as former players that they want things to be as fluid as possible. That's why it's as simple as picking up the phone and saying, hey, we've got a radio tour for you. It's going to involve this amount of interviews. They're going to be about 8 to 10 minutes each, and this is what I can pay you. And how many people get calls like that today saying, we want to pay you to do a radio interview?
Well,
Not many.
not only that, BJ, but if you really think about information and expertise. So
Yeah.
I did a study around recruiting platforms and the people that are ranking these high school players, and looked at their backgrounds. And not to say that you can't be an expert in something you didn't do, but can you imagine if Deion Sanders was ranking defensive backs on the NFL Alumni app?
I'm guessing
And
he'd probably be pretty accurate about it.
probably,
Yeah.
whether he's accurate or not,
I'll just
I
throw
would
that out
trust
there.
Deion first because he's
Oh.
played it at the highest level. So if I'm a high school athlete, who do you want to hear from? Who do you want feedback from? If I'm a parent and I'm going through recruiting and I live in the state of Texas, I want to call up, I want to be able to access Brian Jones and say, hey, BJ, what was your recruiting like at the University of Texas? What questions should I be asking these coaches? Because I'm a mom, I've never been through it. I want to make sure that I'm asking the right questions for my son, right? Or daughter. Those things, as I've come up with my kids in recruiting, they had an advantage because I know kind of the system. I know what to ask. I know what coaches say. And I was amazed around all of these travel sports on how many parents and kids didn't have that access. And they're listening to third parties that have never been through it, that have some sort of skin in the game with it. And our job, I think, and we as retired players, I think this is the most beneficial value we have in these communities is, and I know the NFL recognizes this because they're doing the Play 360s and trying to get retired players involved in these communities on multiple levels. If you really think about a marketplace that we can create with this type of audience, the opportunities, not just with content, but how we lever that out to the community, to go to high schools now and say, we have a mentor program, come on the platform, pick 4 or 5 mentors to have for your school. And they're assigned to that school. These are just ideas that as me and BJ look at the platform that doesn't exist today, we're using our business intelligence to put with FanReach to come up with campaigns like this to start generating these types of experiences within the app. That to me is what makes the combination of FanReach and our company very unique, because we can activate the technology along with the strategy and really help these clients out based on what we see as the group that is going to be most affected by this particular.
That's great what you just said, man, what you just outlined, because it's not just about saying, hey, we've got this wonderful technology. We've got this new advanced platform we're about to launch. Okay, now how do I use it?
How do I
give
use
you
it?
some ideas of how to put it in play. That's the key as well. So it's not just about having tech, it's also about having a strategy. And FanReach has both. They've got a strategy, amazing technology, but the business intelligence that goes hand to hand with creating that strategy for his clients is the key.